Hi there, I'm Susan Webb Tregay, and I'm here to show you how to master disaster. All of us have unfinished paintings. Where do you keep yours? Under the bed? In a drawer? Maybe you've got one framed up and hanging on your bathroom wall. Taking a painting to completion is by far the hardest part of art. But unless a painting is finished, it gets tucked away and chalked up as another failure. My aim is not to teach you how to paint like me, but to help you through the last 20% of your painting. Finishing up is not magic. It is simply a methodical repetition of 5 steps. You will have no more wimpy watercolors. You'll learn to cure your paintings or to kill them trying. Quite simply, you're going to learn how to master disaster. The first of the 5 steps is to lighten up. You don't have to put up with anything you don't like in your painting. Watercolor has a real reputation for being mean and staining, so I'm going to put down all the mean staining colors I have. There's phthalo green, phthalo blue, here's some diazonine violet. Let's put in some alizarin crimson. I can't think of any more staining colors that I have on my palette. Now we're going to let this dry and we will master disaster and get some of this out. Now this is dry and we're going to show you how you can lift out anything. If we can get these colors out, you are home free. What I always do is I draw my correction directly onto the painting. And I cut a stencil also directly onto the painting. This is arch paper, sometimes known as arches, and this is packing tape. It's noisy, inexpensive packing tape. I like the cheap stuff because it's thin and easier to cut. And I'm going to cover a nice large area. I'm using a single edge razor blade to make my cuts. And if you listen carefully, you can hear the razor blade go through and rub on the paper. I can also feel it a little bit through the razor blade. That's how I know I'm getting through the tape and not cutting the paper too much. I have a really old natural sponge, really soft, and I'm going to get some clean water on it and squeeze it out. And I'll be ready with a paper towel to blot. And we're going to start lifting out paint. I keep blotting as I go because I don't want to push the water further into the paper. So I scrub and I blot, and look at those colors come out. You don't have to put up with anything you don't like in your painting, no matter how dark it is, no matter how dark the staining colors are. They come right out. If you are using any paper other than arch paper, it probably is more delicate paper and it will need a more delicate stencil material. You can use shelf paper, clear shelf paper that's available in hardware stores or home stores, or you could use Frisk film, which is a graphic design material and is available through art catalogs. They both have a delicate type of adhesive for more delicate papers. This is the painting we're going to be working on. To some people it looks finished, but to me it's about 80% finished. We are going to be polishing off the last 20%. First of all, I have to take out what I don't like. And the problem with this painting to me is I don't know enough about this bottom lily to finish it properly. My resources just didn't show it. What can I do? I think I'm going to cover it up with another zinnia like this. So we're going to draw in the zinnia, we're going to cut a stencil, lift out the lily, and paint in the zinnia. Okay, here we go. There's a nice big zinnia. Now this is arch paper, so I can use my packing tape on it, and I'm going to cover the area with the packing tape, just like we did in the samples earlier. Now we have to cut the zinnia out. I can hear a little bit of a noise, I can feel a little bit of pressure, and I know that I'm getting through the tape, but not damaging the paper. Many people ask me, well, don't you damage the paper? And once you get the hang of this, no, you don't damage the paper. But even if you did, your correction is worth damaged paper. A little bit of a line is much better than having something you hate in your painting. Now I need to lift this off carefully. I have lots of jagged edges in this one, and it's harder to get it off in one piece. I'm going to run my finger just gently around the edge. Make sure it's sealed down, but you don't have to be rough about it. This is a pretty good system. Squeeze out my sponge, be ready to blot it. See how nicely that picks up? You can make any change you want to make. I keep cleaning my sponge out because I don't want to be rubbing pink water into my paper. I want it to be as clean as possible. Now I'm going to lift off the rest of the tape and blot underneath. The paint does seep under here, the water does seep under just a little bit, but we can deal with that amount of bleed under. Now the area needs to be dried and we can repaint it any color we want to. Why don't we paint it in yellow like we did the tulip, and we'll have some options to change it later if we want to. So I'm varying my yellows, picking up a little bit, one brush load of one yellow and then a brush load of another yellow. And we're getting a yellow zinnia that's covering up the area where I didn't know what was going on in that lily. Sometimes your reference photos look good in a photograph, but when you're painting them from them, they look strange in a painting. And we'll dry the area and perhaps put in a second layer of petals in a little while. We're going to draw in the second layer of the petals, the layer that's facing me, and then we will paint them and go on. Let's pick up a little bit of pinks and oranges on this second layer. This is Acra Crimson and New Gamboge. A little more reds. Again, Acra Crimson. Get this zinnia going here. Throughout the course of the painting, I will go back and cut stencils and make corrections all the time. Each time you paint in something, it makes something else look funny, and sometimes they needed to be corrected. Now we're going to go on to step 2, breaking it up. Lots of paintings have lots of big, boring areas, and they need to be addressed. It's best to address them sooner rather than later. This painting needs things going on behind here, in here, and over here. This is a complex garden scene, and we want the complexity to show through. So I'm going to start by drawing in some more background areas, and then we'll get to painting them. I'm going to start with a zinnia up here. Then we're going to get into stems and leaves and things like that that are fairly straightforward. There's some leaves on that zinnia. Let's put a bud here. Little leaves on that, carry the stem through. We'll put a bigger leaf down here. and another bud behind here. And a stem there. Here we can fit in a whole bud. We might as well. And we're passing it behind down there. We'll paint a leaf down in here. That looks good for a start. I can always add more later if I need to. I'm going to paint these in, not by painting the bud and stems like I did the first time. I'm going to paint them in by painting the negative space, the space behind these newly drawn stems and leaves. This will give me some variety. I already have ones that are painted in, and we want to have some variety, so I'm going to go in and paint behind them. I'm using a little sap green and some phthalo blue. So I'm painting the area that is behind each of those things that I drew. I'm going to have to paint that zinnia color though, and I can't get by with painting that. Can you see the flower taking shape? Because it's negatively painted, it doesn't have quite the importance of the earlier flowers, and that's just the way we want them. This is background material. It's a kind of texture. I don't like texture in my paintings personally, but I feel that a certain sort of busyness is necessary in certain paintings. Garden scenes are certainly one of the areas, one of the types of paintings that need to have a certain amount of busyness going on in them. Negative painting is kind of boring to watch. It's a lot of fun to do. So I'll continue this and get back to you later. We're finished breaking up space here, trying to make the whole painting look a little more interesting. And it's a little busy, but we will tone that down later. I've turned my painting upside down because I want to run a wash. Some of the texture on this side of the painting and down there is a little too strong and too far away from the central part of the painting. So I need to calm these two areas down with a wash. I'm sure most of you know how to run a wash, but there's always somebody out there who has never done this before. What you do is you make a big puddle. It's got to be a good size one. You get a nice big brush that you're comfortable with. I'm going to start, well, I'll start here at this lily, and I'm going to bring it around. This is a tricky wash because I'm going to have, it's not just putting in some sky or sunset or whatnot. I have to work around things. As I paint, I'm bringing that bead of paint down a little bit here, a little bit there. See the bead of paint? That's very important. That's why I turned this painting upside down, because I want this bead of paint to continue down the page. And now I'm going to get it down to our new flower. And I don't want to paint that, so we'll bring it down to there. Now I'm going to clean up. I dried it on the paper towel, got a thirsty brush, bring it down. Now I still have this one over here I have to do something with. There's the bead of paint, very important, and I'm bringing it down. I'm going to add a little clear water because I want to fade it away. A little more clear water. So I run this wash all the way down the page. This one I stopped here. Now we need to do the same thing over on this side. We don't want the edges of the painting being so attractive that somebody's looking at that and then they'll move on and look at the painting next to yours and never get to your subject matter.